Kalynivka, 0347 local. A Russian BMP-3 Wedge crosses the line of departure with T-72B3M Overwatch, moving on the T-0504 highway west of Chasiv Yar. 22 armored hulls, 1 reinforced airborne screening company, 1 11-minute window between drone rotations that the Russian 98th Guards Airborne believed no one had noticed. They had done this dozens of times. The math was wrong. By 0445, less than an hour later, the Wedge was a smoking arc of thermal signatures scattered across 2 kilometers of dirt track, 22 hulls destroyed or abandoned, a $500,000 kill package of Vampire heavy bombers, and $400 FPVs against roughly $28 million of Russian armor. And a Russian Ministry of Defense claim, time-stamped 14 o'clock, of a successful advance on Kalynivka Heights that ISW analysts were already geolocating against burning BMP-3s at the same coordinates by 15 o'clock. This is Fury Military, where we break down the battles quietly rewriting this war. Today, how the 24th King Danylo Mechanized Brigade turned an 11-minute gap in a Russian screening routine into the fastest brigade-level armor collapse of the summer, and why the T-0504 corridor east of Chasiv Yar has become one of the most expensive pieces of ground the Russian army has tried to cross in 2026. Here is what most of the reporting missed. This engagement did not begin at 0347. It began 4 days earlier, in a Shark UAV recon feed cross-referenced against a Delta system pin dropped by a forward observer near Ivanivske. The 24th did not stumble into a Russian column. They watched it form, counted it, timed its escorts, and let it walk into a corridor that had been prepared, mined, and pre-registered for artillery. The Wedge was not ambushed, it was scheduled to die. Before we get to how, one question. In a layered kill chain like this one, which link actually decided the engagement? Was it A, the 4 days of Shark UAV recon that built the pattern of life picture? Was it B, the PTM-3 anti-tank mines that shaped the trap? Or was it C, the 155mm Bohdana battery that broke the pinned wedge? Drop your answer in the comments. A, B, or C? I will tell you which one at the end, and the answer surprises most people who have never planned a fires mission. Now the asset. The BMP-3 is the newest infantry fighting vehicle in Russia's inventory, produced by Kurganmashzavod, roughly $1.2 million per hull in 2026, export-adjusted terms, according to Defense Express estimates. It carries a 100mm 2A70 low-pressure gun capable of firing the 9M117 Bastion-guided missile out to 5.5 kilometers, a coaxial 30mm 2A72 autocannon, and a 7.62mm PKT machine gun. Published road speed is 70 kilometers per hour. In dry summer conditions on a graded corridor, it can push a mechanized company forward faster than a Ukrainian dismounted platoon can reposition its anti-tank teams. That speed is why Russian planners keep pushing it, even after 2 years of losses. Speed only helps if the corridor you are moving through is not already saturated with sensors. Remember that 5.5-kilometer missile range. It matters in about 6 minutes of narration. The T-72B3M Overwatch is the older, cheaper counterweight, roughly $2 million per hull, with the upgraded Relict reactive armor package, a 125mm 2A46M-5 main gun, and thermal sights that in theory should have seen everything the Ukrainians were doing. In practice, the escort tanks were positioned 3 kilometers behind the Wedge on a reverse slope hide, watching a corridor they believed had already been swept. That belief is the sanctuary myth at the center of this video, and it is what actually died at Kalynivka. Russian command treated the T-0504 approach as a pre-suppressed corridor. For roughly 3 weeks in April and early May 2026, Iskander-M and Iskander-K, launches from Rostov area sites, had hit what Russian sources described as confirmed Ukrainian firing positions and command nodes along the Ivanivske ridgeline. Militarnyi and Defense Express both reported the working Russian assumption. The 24th's Overwatch had been thinned, the sector was ready. According to intercepts published by Ukrainian OSINT accounts, including Exilenova Plus, at least one Russian regimental staff officer described the corridor as, quote, already worked over. Distance was armor. Suppression was armor. It wasn't. Here is where the story stops being about the BMP-3 and starts being about the Ukrainian reconnaissance layer that had been building the target for 96 hours. The 24th Recon Company, working with a Shark UAV team attached at the operational level, tracked the assembly area across 4 consecutive nights. Shark is a Ukrainian-built medium-altitude reconnaissance drone with a claimed operating radius of 60 kilometers and roughly 4 hours of endurance per sortie. It is not a strike drone. Its job is to see, to persist, and to hand off. Each sortie was cross-referenced through the Delta Situational Awareness System, the Ukrainian battle management platform that stitches sensor inputs from drones, ground observers, and allied ISR feeds into a shared map. Each fresh contact was pinned, tagged, and time-stamped. By the second night, the 24th staff had a hard number. The Russian screening element, drawn from the 98th Guards Airborne, was rotating its escort UAVs on an 11-minute cycle. Every 47 minutes, the airborne screen would swap. For 11 of those minutes, the transition left a low-altitude blind arc across roughly 2.4 kilometers of the T-0504 approach. 11 minutes. Not enough time to move a company through the corridor safely. Exactly enough time to trap one that was already inside it. Stay with this. What happens in the next 11 minutes takes a full Russian mechanized company off the Chasiv Yar sector, and it starts with a decision the 24th staff nearly did not make. Here is a second question to hold. How many armored hulls did the 24th account for in that single window? 11, 19, or 22? Hold the number. We come back to it. On the 6th night of the watch, the whole thing nearly came apart. A Shark sortie flew a track that briefly intersected a Russian Zala 421-16E reconnaissance drone at roughly 900 meters altitude, and the Zala's operator reported an unidentified contact to Sector Command. Ukrainian OSINT logs geolocated by Deep State later matched the Zala's flight path to a regimental HQ near Bakhmut. The 24th's recon officer recommended a 24-hour stand-down. The brigade's fires coordinator overruled him. His argument, in the reconstruction from Kyiv Independent reporting, was blunt. If the Russians thought they had been seen, they would randomize the escort cycle within 2 days. The window was closing. They went that night. At 03:47, the lead BMP-3 crossed the culvert, marking the eastern end of the pre-registered engagement area. Behind it, 7 more BMP-3s in a shallow wedge, 4 MTLB armored transports carrying dismounts from the 98th 2nd Battalion, and 2 T-72 B-3Ms bringing up direct fire overwatch from the rear. The 429th Achilles-adjacent FPV group, queued through Delta from a forward Shark handoff, was already airborne. They did not strike immediately. They waited for the escort drone rotation to begin. 03:52. The Russian airborne escort UAV, an Orlan 10, banked north to hand off to its replacement. The blind arc opened. At 03:53:20, the first PTM-3 anti-tank mine detonated under the lead BMP-3's left track. PTM-3 is a scatterable magnetic influence anti-tank mine, seeded from Ukrainian modified ground vehicles across the corridor 2 nights earlier, under the same drone window logic. The lead vehicle burned within seconds. The second BMP-3, roughly 60 meters behind, tried to reverse. It hit a second mine at 03:54:11. The Wedge was now pinned. A Russian company commander trained for this moment calls in overwatch fires and pushes through, because a stationary armored column is a target. The T-72 B-3M overwatch tried. According to intercepted radio traffic later published in fragments by Militarnyi, the tank company commander requested immediate suppression on suspected Ukrainian firing positions at 03:54:40. Suspected. He did not know where they were. Nobody did. At 03:55:10, the first FPV strike hit the trail BMP-3 at the rear of the Wedge. 4 FPVs, 2 teams, 2-second intervals. The trail vehicle detonated its stored ammunition within 90 seconds. The escape corridor was sealed on both ends. A $400 quadcopter, carrying a repurposed RPG-7 warhead, had just closed the door on 8 BMP-3s and 4 MTLBs, worth roughly $12 million in combined replacement cost. Subscribe to Fury Military if you want to understand how this war is actually fought, system by system, because what happened next is the part almost no one covering this engagement got right. The FPVs did not kill the Wedge. They fixed it. The killing was done by artillery. At 03:57, 4 Bohdana 155mm self-propelled howitzers of the 24th's Fires Battalion opened up from a hide position 21 kilometers south. The Bohdana is Ukrainian-built, on a Tatra 8x8 chassis, with a claimed maximum range of 42 kilometers, using base bleed rounds. Its shoot-and-scoot cycle is under 2 minutes. The battery fired 48 rounds in a sustained pre-registered fire mission across 9 minutes, walking the impacts from the pinned lead of the Wedge to the trapped rear. Because the target coordinates had been pre-registered off 4 days of shark tracking, the first round was on target. No ranging shot. The T-72B3M Overwatch, still 3 kilometers behind, and watching a corridor it could not enter without eating the same fires plan, held position and did nothing until 0412, when the 2 Overwatch tanks were themselves engaged by a second Vampire bomber pass dropping TM-62 anti-tank mines onto their withdrawal route. Vampire is the Ukrainian heavy multi-rotor bomber, sometimes called Baba Yaga by Russian troops, capable of carrying roughly 10 to 15 kilograms of ordnance depending on the airframe variant. 2 of the aircraft used that night were configured for scatter mining. Their job was not to kill armor directly. Their job was to make retreat more expensive than staying still. It worked. Both T-72B3Ms attempted to reverse across mined ground. One was disabled and abandoned. The other was recovered days later, after Russian sappers cleared a path. But by then, the engagement was over. 0445 local, 58 minutes after the first mine detonation. The 24th's fires coordinator, called Checkfire. When Ukrainian drone teams overflew the corridor for battle damage assessment, they counted 8 BMP-3s destroyed, 4 MTLBs destroyed, 2 T-72B3Ms, destroyed or disabled, and 8 additional vehicles, either abandoned or damaged beyond immediate recovery. 22 armored hulls. The number holds up in independent OSINT reviews published by Deep State and Exilenova Plus over the following 48 hours. Now the Russian side. The Russian Ministry of Defense briefing at 14 o'clock that afternoon claimed a successful advance on Kalynivka Heights. By 15 o'clock, ISW was publishing geolocated imagery of burning BMP-3s at coordinates matching the claimed advance. By 18 o'clock, RBC Ukraine and the Kyiv Independent were both reporting the 22-hull figure with corroborating drone footage. Russian state media went silent on the sector for the next 72 hours. When Russia intercepts an attack, it celebrates. When it goes quiet, the damage is real. The exchange ratio stated bare. Roughly $500,000 in Vampire airframes, FPV quadcopters, PTM-3 and TM-62 mines, and 155mm rounds fired. Roughly $28 million in destroyed and disabled Russian armor. 56-1. And that number does not include the crews, the recovery costs, or the operational cost of the 98th Guards Airborne now having to re-establish a screening rotation the Ukrainians have already proven they can read. If you think tempo beats mass, type fury in the comments, because tempo is exactly what this engagement proves. The strategic ripple is where this stops being a battle and starts being a doctrine problem. In the 2 weeks after Kalynivka, according to Defense Express reporting and ISW's June sector assessments, Russian mechanized reserve rotation into the Chasiv Yar sector dropped to roughly 40% of its April tempo. That is not a coincidence, and it is not just about lost vehicles. Russian planners have started randomizing escort UAV rotations, doubling airborne screens on assembly area movement, and pushing armor sub-elements forward in smaller 2 and 3 vehicle sub-columns rather than company wedges. Every one of those adaptations costs something. Smaller columns generate less combat power per crossing. Doubled screens burn UAV airframes at twice the previous rate against a Ukrainian air defense layer, already killing Orlans faster than Russian industry can replace them. Randomized rotations degrade the coordination advantage that made the escort cycle work in the first place. The 98th Guards Airborne did not just lose 22 hulls at Kalynivka, it lost the routine that made brigade-level mechanized pushes possible in this sector. This is the sanctuary myth dying in real time. Russian command had treated the T-0504 approach as pre-suppressed, meaning outside the reach of Ukrainian responsive fires. Pre-suppressed is another way of saying held out of the war. Iskander strikes on suspected positions do not degrade an enemy who has already moved. The 24th's overwatch had not been thinned. The 24th had watched the Iskander strikes hit empty ground for 3 weeks and let Russian command draw the wrong conclusion. Suppression is not armor when your target has a Delta system and 4 days of Shark UAV imagery. The Russian failure here is structural, not personal. The company commander who requested suspected position suppression at 03-5440 was not incompetent. He was following doctrine that assumes fire suppression correlates with terrain denial. It doesn't, when the opposing force can see you build the assumption. The regimental staff officer who described the corridor as already worked over was not lying. He was reading the same map his superiors were reading. The failure was the hierarchy above him that punishes honest reporting of intelligence gaps and rewards the confident brief. The same pattern that lost the Moskva, lost the Sevastopol air defense picture, lost the Kursk incursion, and lost the Pantsir S-1 that Ukrainian forces captured intact near Klishchiivka in late 2025. What would NATO have done differently with the same intelligence? Tell me below. I read them. 3 lessons. 1 from each level. Tactical. Pre-registered fires are only decisive when the target arrives inside a window the defender does not know is closing. Scheduled Russian operations can always be scheduled against. Operational. A layered kill chain that pins with FPVs and kills with artillery outperforms an all-drone kill package by an order of magnitude in exchange ratio, because artillery ammunition is cheap, plentiful, and does not require line of sight. Strategic. Distance is not a substitute for active defense. Any sector Russian command calls untouchable is a sector Ukrainian planners are already mapping. Now the questions from the top. Which link decided the engagement? The answer is B, the PTM-3 mines that shaped the trap. If you chose A, the Shark UAV recon, you were thinking like a targeting officer. Recon built the picture, but a picture is not a kill. If you chose C, the Bohdana fires, you were thinking like an artilleryman. The fires broke the Wedge, but only because the Wedge had stopped moving. The mines stopped it. Without the pin, the Wedge drives through the killing box, and the Bohdana battery fires at empty road. B was the hinge, and the number, 22 hulls. Not 11, not 19, 22. The full company, plus the 2 overwatch tanks. The 11-minute window did not just kill the Wedge inside it. It killed the Wedge 2 kilometers behind. The T-0504 corridor east of Chasiv Yar is quiet now. The burn scars along the culvert at Kalynivka are still there. Modern warfare punishes the assumption of safety without mercy. 3 questions for the analysts. First, given the 40% drop in mechanized rotation tempo, does the Russian 98th Guards Airborne have the trained crews left to re-establish company-level pushes in this sector before the fall mud season? Or has the escort cycle adaptation already priced them out? Second, if the Kremlin decides to escalate glide bomb sorties over the Chasiv Yar sector to compensate for lost armor tempo, at what point does the exchange ratio between Su-34 losses and delivered ordnance turn against Russian Air Command? And third, if you had been the 24th Fires Coordinator on the 6th night with a compromised shark track and 24 hours before the escort cycle randomized, would you have gone that night, or would you have held? Real tempo, real consequences. This is Fury Military. The point of this analysis is not to celebrate destruction, but to understand the military and human realities behind it. Because the clearer we see modern war, the clearer the value of deterrence, stability, and a just peace becomes.